Hello, you guys. Welcome back to Channel Claire. Hope that you're doing well wherever you are in this crazy, crazy world. And speaking of crazy and insanity, but a riveting story, man, oh man. So, this past weekend, I literally had nothing to do, and it was blissful. Absolutely loved it. And I was on TikTok scrolling as we do, and I came across this creator by the name of Reesa Teesa, and she started a series on her account on TikTok called Who the Fuck Did I Marry? And it was 50 parts on TikTok. It has a runtime, I believe. I just saw someone uploaded it on YouTube on another channel, and the runtime was like 4 hours. Now, I think they may have sped it up and did it like 2 times speed, but I think I saw on Twitter that it's like a total of 8 hours. So, literally, you can watch it in a work day, listen to it on a car ride, listen to it when you're doing absolutely anything. Um, there have been so many people that have just been completely invested in Reesa Teesa's story, and I'm truly hoping that she's a part of the creator, like the creator account or membership that they have on TikTok where she's making money off of these videos, because it's gone absolutely wild on TikTok. And Reesa Teesa was very open and vulnerable, letting us in on her relationship with a pathological liar. Now, I've heard the term pathological liar before, but I never really knew what it was. But given this story and the insane things that this man did, my mind is blown. She was in a relationship very quickly. I will say this about Reesa Teesa, and she was very vulnerable and took accountability for the red flags that she ignored, and how really she just wanted it to be her turn and have a relationship. She wanted to get married. She wanted it to be her turn so, 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 so bad. So there was a lot of things she did ignore, and she was very vulnerable and open with that. So I just have like a lot of sympathy for her. A lot of people are trying to say, well, oh, she was stupid, this, that, and other. But then there's a lot of people who are very sympathetic and like understand where she's coming from. So I was just like, wow, because pathological liar, this man with whom she nicknamed in this story Lesion, Lesion, he's already been found, because people cannot just keep things online and they get way too invasive. It's fine to be invested, it's fine to follow a creator and their story and everything like that, but why do you need to take it a step further and then go find the people within the story when she clearly made nicknames for a reason? If she wanted to say his name, she would have said his name. And it's just so unsafe given how the story fleshes out. Okay, and what this pathological man that she nicknamed Lesion, which I just learned what lesion is. In biblical terms, lesion is like a group of demons, and this man truly does seem like the devil, because the cruelty to literally lie to someone to the depths that he did, continuously, so prolonged and so consistently, is just something is wrong with you. There's something not right. And I'm not sure if pathological lying is like a mental thing, but this man Lesion definitely had an issue. When I say he lied about everything, he lied about everything. And this relationship moved very fast. They met online dating during COVID, of course, and she really did not want to go into lockdown. You know, that lockdown period where everything obviously shut down. And she was in Atlanta, and she didn't want to do lockdown alone. So prior to that, she's talking to this guy, nicknamed Legion, and they start moving very fast. She's deciding with him, okay, are we going to do lockdown at your place? Are we going to do lockdown at my place? She had like a townhouse apparently, and he had like a little studio apartment. So obviously, you're going to do lockdown in a bigger space, okay? So they go and do that, and things move very quickly after that to the point where they're looking at houses together, buying cars together, getting engaged. She did get pregnant at a point, and unfortunately, really just due to everything, unfortunately had like a miscarriage. But in all of this, the lies, the depravity of this man through all of this that only happened within a year. It was like she started dating him, I forget what month in 2020, but then it all was over in 2021. And it's just insane. This is Reesa Teesa's account. She started posting her stories last week. Again, they are 50 parts, and I see she did a live here where she was answering questions that people had. But as you saw, she's garnered almost a million subscribers off of this story. And I think it's because a lot of people can relate. And you're in a relationship with someone and you're deciding you want to spend your life with someone, but you never really know them, right? And you can be with them for years. You always hear that story where, like, this couple has been together for years, and then all of a sudden you hear that they're not together anymore because one of them did some fuck shit that the other person would have never thought that they would do. But you just never really know someone. In Reesa Teesa's case, she did only know him for, I want to say, like 2 weeks. The time span she was spacing it out, but again, she was very, very hopeful, and she is very upfront from the beginning of the first video of her state of mind of how she was going into this relationship. But no one should be treated in this manner. At the end of the day, everyone just wants to love and be loved, and Reesa Teesa certainly wanted that. So now I have to go and watch her lives and see what questions people had for her, because I'm sure there were many. But this is just a video, kind of a cliff notes for people who are curious, saw it on their timeline because it has reached Twitter. People have been talking about it. You've been curious, but you don't want to spend 8 hours or 4 hours watching something. You kind of just want the cliff notes. But I do recommend going to her account. There's nothing like hearing it from the creator's mouth. We can recap all day long, but her storytelling skills are phenomenal. She's very organized. She doesn't go on random tangents. It was an enjoyable experience for me and for many, many others who spent their weekend watching Reesa Teesa. Let us know about her story of being in a relationship for like over a year with a pathological liar. So, without further ado, the lies of Legion. Janelle Simmons of Facebook did an excellent job compiling the 50 parts on TikTok, and it's going to start here. She met him in March 2020, 2 weeks before shutdown, met online, talked a bit, decided to go out. She has a blowout on the way to the date, yes. So it seems like many times along the way she was saying herself that like God like was trying to keep her away from this man, because as she was going on the date, her tire just blew out. Just blew out. And he came and saved the day. And so, of course, damsel in distress, he comes and saves the day, handles it all. We tend to fall for that. So, right then and there, he kind of had her. So, they still went on the date afterwards. They talked and hit it off. They got along so well that by the time shutdown came, they decided he would move into her 3-bedroom, 2-bath home because he had a studio. He paid for everything, so all the household bills he was paying for. Very important. And she paid her car note and insurance and phone bill. She was happy because she never had a man like that. Doesn't come around too often. Like a lot of guys nowadays, we like the 50-50. And I guess that's okay because it's a different time and everything's expensive as hell nowadays. But it is hard to come across, unless you're married, a guy who's gonna take care of all your bills like this. But he was handling it, so she was happy. Fast forward, he tells her that he has 5 siblings, 2 half siblings that he was close with. He spoke to his oldest brother every day on the phone. That's also important. Every day for almost 1.5 years, okay? Spoke to him on the phone in her presence. She would hear him talking to him. Like if you are in another room and your spouse is on the phone, like you can hear them talking and having that conversation. You can't hear the other person on the other side of the phone, but you can hear the person who's with you speaking. Important. But he did that for almost a year and a half. So she never spoke on the phone with the brother, but she did speak to him, and he would pass it along. So he would be in the room with Legion, would be in the room with Reesa, and he'd be like, "Oh, my brother said hi," and she would be like, "Hey, so and so," and like that. So through Legion, she was talking to him, but never really heard his voice. Crazy. Um, So Legion did have an ex-wife, no kids together, but he was close to her kids, the ex-wife's kids, and kept a relationship with them. Their ages were 20 and 17. Also important. They tried to buy a house together, but it fell through. He kept giving the runaround about actually purchasing it, but they never did. So this is also important because she was telling how he was very interested in always wanting to buy a house, buying houses, buying cars, all of that. And so he was showing her this Chase like mortgage approval that was for like 700 grand. Okay. And that's pretty hefty if the bank is willing to loan you 700 grand. You would think that you would have money to kind of back that up. So she's going into it because she sees this loan approval from Chase, like the paperwork, that he's got it like that. They also, I'm not sure if this is going to get to it, she's also like asked to see his accounts. And he showed her accounts, like a bank account. And one account had like $15,000 in it. I think another one had like some other $1,000 in it, but like he had more money in his account than a normal person just typically has floating around in their bank accounts, and certainly more than what she had. So she's thinking that he's fully. Oh, and he said that he had like offshore accounts. So she's really thinking he has some money to work with to buy this house. And he was like the VP. He said he was the VP of production at like this condiments company. She didn't give the name, but he was like the VP of like production. Not like the VP of the company, but VP of like the regional production in that area. So she really thought that he had it like that. So when she went into purchasing houses with him and stuff, she thought he had it and wanted to make sure that they could get a home that was within the parameters of the 700 grand. And in Atlanta, I'm pretty sure that you're able to do that. Up north, it's getting like more expensive every freaking day. So where was I? So yeah, they're trying to buy the house. He keeps giving them the runaround because what's happening is the realtors are like showing them houses. He wants to see all these freaking houses. One realtor showed them like 25 effing houses. They go to make an offer. He puts down like a 600 grand cash, fully cash offer to the people, and they're like, "Great, we love that offer. Let's see proof of funds." He refuses to provide proof of funds. Refuses. He's like, "Well, I like your offer. I like your house. This is my offer. I don't need to show you proof of funds. That makes no sense. If you're going to sign an offer, he literally signed the offer for cash 600 grand, yet did not want to show proof of funds. So the seller ended up being like, no, like this is sketchy. This doesn't seem right. So he would do that each time to all of these houses that like they would look at and she would fall in love with and envision like them living there and having a family there, and it would continuously happen to the point where she was like, fuck it, I don't want to hear about a house anymore, I don't want to talk to a realtor, I don't want to visit any more homes. Like it just never worked out, and he would consistently give an excuse as to why it did not work out, and she could not get him to show proof of funds to even her. And he refused to show her the money in these so-called offshore accounts. Crazy. Who signs like a legal document that you're going to pay 600 grand cash and it turns out you don't have it, because we know now you're a pathological liar, but she didn't know that at the time. So he's doing all this, wasting the realtor's time, her time, and his time, knowing that when it comes down to it, how are you gonna fucking afford this home? Is the money gonna magically appear? And that's why I feel like this pathological liar stuff is like a mental issue, because there's only so far you can get to, like, before you're up against the fucking wall. Like, what did he think was going to happen? They were not going to let you proceed. At some point, you were going to have to come up with some money. It just like blew my fucking mind. But she just went along with it and, decided that she really didn't want to deal with trying to purchase a home with him anymore, because it was always an issue. He didn't want to show proof of funds. He wasn't showing her the offshore accounts, and it just wasn't setting right. So he also took her to like Home Depot or whatever, and they went around and purchased appliances because the seller was taking all the appliances from the home. So they needed their own, and they went shopping for appliances. This man put down a deposit, a $350 deposit, so that the appliances could be stored in their warehouse, like the shop's warehouse, until their house was ready to be moved into. Did all of that while having no intentions of even moving into a fucking house because he did not have the money. So she ends up finding out it's all a lie. He never closed on the house, and he kept giving her the runaround because she could see, if you're on Zillow or whatever, you can see a house that's under contract. And he's telling her this entire time, like months, like, hey, I'm working on the closing, I'm working on the paperwork and everything like that, having her think that they're purchasing this house. And she's thinking that it's being done because when she goes on Zillow, it's showing under contract, and she thinks it's under contract for her. However, it's under contract for a completely other buyer, and he is lying to her fucking face. And she finds that all out, and he lies about it, ends up just saying, oh, something fell through. It was a bad deal. It was a bad deal. Okay. So he never did the paperwork, gives the realtor a runaround, and by that time, it's April 2020. Okay, it started in March of 2020. For April 2020, she's pregnant. So at this point, because you're having a child, you want more room. So they tried to go and get another home. This is the time, however, when I was talking about earlier, where he puts down the $600K cash offer. He claims that he's been approved through his little Chase, loan approval that she's seen on documentation, which I'm just like, he could have easily typed that bullshit up. So he had claimed he was approved for $700K, so $600K cash offer, she's thinking, no issue. And he had his separate savings account. But when it came time, the house sellers were willing to accept the cash offer, but he could not prove that he'd actually pay for it. So she was very upset and confused, as I told you, because why the fuck won't you just show your proof of funds? Because you're saying you literally already signed for this. So she's upset, confused, because he said he had the money and the bills were always paid. That's the thing. She's like, she didn't have to pay for anything but like her car, her insurance, like cell phone bills, stuff like that. The bills for the household were always paid. So that was like the mind fuck, I guess, that she was in. Like, okay, I see that he has, these accounts that he's showing me, at least like the Chase one or whatever, that she's seen like 15 grand in or whatever. And he's paying all the house bills. He's VP of production in this area. Hmm. Like, I understand where people feel like, okay, like this is hard to believe, it's moving so fast, but then it's like you would never think someone would lie about shit like this. It's just like, why go through the effort? I just feel like that would take so much fucking energy to go back and forth about lying about purchasing a home. And you can see her, it's so cruel because he's seeing her get excited about these homes and then purchasing these homes and envisioning herself in the house decorating and this and another. He's seeing the excitement, knowing full well it's never going to come to fruition. He has no intention. He's literally just lying. Crazy. So where was I? So around this time also, she finds out that he's talking to a woman on Facebook Messenger. And that's when she starts to question herself. Her eyes are opened a lot at that point. Because the way that he's talking to this woman is a lot more, let's say, freaky and risque than how their intimate relationship was. So it was another layer of like, okay, who is this person? Because you don't treat me like that at all. But you're talking all this to this random woman. So that's when she starts questioning herself. Fast forward to July of 2020, and she unfortunately has a miscarriage. And it's unfortunate because obviously you're losing a child, but given the circumstance, this man is so unwell that it was probably for the best, unfortunately. He wasn't there to support her. He literally, this man made the whole process that much more stressful because she had to take a pill because there was still residue left from the miscarriage. And so, like, she got checked out or whatever, or I believe she took the pill initially, and then all the residue wasn't out, so she had to get like a DNC, I believe, an operation. And so when she's in recovery, she was only supposed to be in recovery for like an hour and a half while like the anesthetics wore off. And he's telling the hospital, like the nurses and the doctors and stuff, like he's supposed to be the one to pick her up. Literally supposed to be the one to pick her up. And he keeps like they keep calling him to see what's his ETA, and he's like, "Oh, I'm like 20 minutes out, 30 minutes out." He never comes. Literally never comes. Makes up some fucking excuse. It's like, "Oh, I can have my sister come and get you." Whole time we know now he really doesn't have a sister, but just making up shit made that whole thing stressful to the point where she had to find her own accommodations back. This man could not be there for her after the operation of her losing their child together, and lied about it, embarrassed her in front of the doctors, the nurses, and everything, where they're looking like, okay, what the fuck is wrong with this man? Why does he keep telling us he's coming and he's just like really not coming because he should have been there within the hour? Like, what is your basic issue? So he's not coming to her appointment to pick her up because he's claiming he has this business meeting that he just cannot miss because he's acting like he's the VP of this condiment company, which, as we know now, is a complete and utter effing lie. So fast forward, his grandma passes away, And he starts changing even more. That could even be imagined. How could this get any worse? By now, she is kind of over the relationship because nothing had changed. And every time that they would try to do something like buy a house, buy a car, there was always an excuse as to why it did not take place. As I was saying before, he would take her to go on test drives to go buy a car, like really expensive cars, like Audis, BMWs, like top of the line. So they're test driving all these cars, spending all these weekends driving all these 50 million cars. She's like, she must have test drove like 20 plus cars. And he's just trying to prolong the inevitable. That's what he's doing with like the 25 houses, having her test drive all these cars. He's making it out like he's being so particular and has her best interest in heart and trying to get them the best deal, when in actuality he is trying to prolong what inevitably is going to happen, which in turn is really, really cruel because he's continuously getting her hopes up, getting her excited, watching her, and knowing it's not going to happen. She thinks he would like get off to her excitement in a way. So, like, there was one time, like, literally, he was like, "Oh, I'm going to buy you a car." Told her a time to take off of work, okay? He's always like, "I'm handling everything." Told her a time to take off of work, right? To be home because the car is going to be delivered between like 12 and 3 that day. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, it's coming." I believe it was like an Audi or a BMW. I can't remember. And she's waiting, waiting. Car never comes. Car literally never comes, never shows up. And of course, he comes up with some stupid ass fucking excuse that makes not a lick of fucking sense. And yes, she believes it. And sometimes I feel like we want to believe things because our heart cannot take, we just can't take it. And I'm just like, what would be the fucking purpose? One time they went to go try to get another car, and he's saying that he's getting a work vehicle through his job. So his job is paying for this car. Okay, top of the line, of course. He's saying, yes, financial department gave me a max of 90K to spend on the car. So they go to this dealership. He finds the car he likes. He's doing all the numbers, doing all the paperwork with the not realtor, but car salesman. The car salesman person's getting all excited, thinking he's about to get a big deal. So it comes down for payment and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, let me call my financial, the financial department because I need to get the wire details and everything like that." So she sees him get on the phone, dial somebody, get on the phone, have like a whole fucking conversation. Of course, she can't hear the person on the other side of the line. Have a whole conversation. They're acting like, the wire's going to go through. Well, actually, he was like, "Oh, the person who can do the wire." Apparently, he's saying that the person on the phone is saying the person who can initiate the wire has gone home for the day. So, further prolonging another day. So, he's like, "Okay, I'll just come back tomorrow and handle this and we'll get it done there." Of course, the next day happens and he never gets the fucking car. Now we know this, but what he told her is that he parked the car. So she never saw this work car. She's thinking he's got in the work vehicle, but because of the area that they're living in Clayton County, I guess, he wants to park this high-end car in his car's parking garage so that it's in a safe environment. So he gets up in the morning, drives his car into the city where the offices are of this company, gets into his work vehicle, drives the work vehicle to the, production area wherever he like actually works, and then in the evening drives the work vehicle back to the garage in the city and then drives his old car back home. I'm like, you have got to be mother effing fucking me. Like, there's no way. There's no fucking way.
Also, she really did think he was working because every day, like clockwork, he would depart at 6 a.m. and come home between 3 and 4. So she thought he was working. It turns out at a certain point, he ends up losing his job with the condiments factory, which he did work with them, but he obviously was not a VP. He was like a loader, with a forklift. That's what he was doing. And she was explaining how he would dress to go to work, where she thought it was interesting that he would wear like more casual clothes. And like a VP, you're thinking like in an office, you'd wear more maybe business casual, but like a nice top and, dress shoes. And she questioned him about it, and he was like, well, I'm oftentimes walking the production floor. I'm walking the production floor, so like I can't be doing that in like suit and tie. I need to be comfortable, I need to be able to be flexible and shit. And I'm just like, this dude had a motherfucking answer for everything that, like, in a sense, like, in an isolated situation, like someone giving you that response, you'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And you're not gonna think someone's gonna lie about it, but like it all added up together. It's just like, you are a crazed man. And Legion, I almost said his real name because, like I said in the beginning, they have found him. Legion is walking around here. Now we have a face to the name, and we know he was literally lying his motherfucking ass off. Like, this is just insane. Insanity. Um, so within that time frame, he also was losing a couple other family members. He was saying, passed of COVID or this, that, and other. Turns out these family members either didn't exist and or had passed a while ago, and he was acting like they passed currently, and then acting all distraught and sad and all this, that, and the other, I guess, to get sympathy. And it's just like, are you effing crazy? Only a non-well-intentioned person lies about death of like a family member. Like, it's just crazy. Like, when I say he lied about everything, he lied about everything. So then, because she was pregnant, didn't end up having the baby, but they were still together. By the end of the year, in December, he had proposed. Then by the next month, in January 2021, they were married. 3 days later, literally 3 days later within their marriage, she finds out that he was cheating with a prostitute since November. Since November. And I'm just like, Reesa, I'm literally screaming. I'm like, at this point, leave, baby, leave, please. Like, when is enough? Enough. Please, please, let's get. I know this is what you wanted. You thought it was going to be your turn, but please, please tell me after this it's a fucking wrap. But at that point, I think I was only at part like 35, and there was like 50 parts, and I was like, I know this is going on so much more. This is crazy. So yeah, 3 days later, and into their marriage, he's cheating with a prostitute. She went into his phone, found all the details. They decide on marriage counseling, which was really interesting because the marriage counselor, they were, a preacher and his wife, flat out told them, first of all, like, just given one couple sit downs with them, and the fact Reesa shared with their counselors, the pastor and his wife, that Legion was refusing to share the information that was in his so-called offshore accounts. And if you're married, that should be, that shouldn't be off the table to know what you have in some offshore account. And it was really bothering Reesa. So it was a point of contention within their relationship. So she brings it up at their marriage counseling, along with other things. But the marriage counselors are like, first of all, if you would have came here prior to even getting married, like pre-marriage counseling, we would have told y'all to never get married. We would have told y'all you do not need to be together. We would have told y'all no. No. But since you are married and like you're in this situation, um, I'm gonna say I don't even see you making it to the end of the year. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, oh my god. Like, imagine hearing that. Going to a counselor to try to, like, get help to work on your marriage, and they tell you flat out that, like, no. No. Not at all. Y'all don't need to be together in any way, shape, or form. Like, I would be sick. Literally sick. So, Legion proceeds in his just really depraved lies because he lies about death, and that's just crossing so many lines. So he ends up telling Reesa that he wants to send 2K to his ex-wife because the ex-stepchildren he had, that remember the beginning that he said he was so close to, the daughter passed, and he wanted to send 2K up to help with, the funds and everything that comes with that. I'm like, are you effing kidding me? So where did the 2K go? Because it didn't happen. Literally, she gets in contact with the ex-wife, who is literally like, if you found me and if you're calling me and asking about this mother effer, I know it's fucking bad. And instantly, I'm sure her heart freaking dropped even more, because literally everything Legion had told her about the ex-wife having had an affair and he caught her and the ex-wife was trying to take all his money, all of that was a bold-faced fucking lie. It was the fact that he was a liar and she left him, not the other way around like he had told Reesa. Like, lied about everything. And then you're gonna lie on, her daughter. She did have kids, but her daughter did not pass. So why would you make up something about a living person like that? That's why she nicknamed this man Legion. Um, so yeah, mysteriously, we don't know where the 2K actually went. So she ends up buying herself, because remember, nothing ever came through with the car from him dealing with it and handling it. So she ends up purchasing herself a Nissan Altima. Um, but the car note is way more than she expected, and he was helping her pay for it. So she told him she's getting another job, and he laughed at her. She got another job because she wanted to be able to afford, her own expenses by herself. She ends up getting a new job. However, with the job she was getting, it needed a background check, and she had to put her social on there and her husband's social as well. And when she got the social, when he gave her the social to put on her background check, she realized it was different than the one that was on her marriage license. So, of course, when she is searching for the socials and looking shit up, all fucking hell breaks loose. All hell breaks loose. He had told her in the beginning, when they were chit-chatting like those 2 weeks, that he played arena football, whatever the fuck that is, that he went to school out in California and shit. She discovers that, in fact, he never went to school out in California, didn't play football, didn't meet his wife out in California. It all happened in like Atlanta and Georgia. He had only lived in Rhode Island and Philly and Georgia. Found out that he had been married even before his previous ex-wife. She never knew about that. And in that case, he ended up getting an order of protection on that first ex-wife because she beat the shit out of him after he had lied about something that was like pretty bad. Crazy. And both times, the divorces for the ex-wives, the two ex-wives, were within like the 6 months. Like, they did not even last 6 months. And now she's in a situation where, like, she got married in January, and like 3 days into the marriage, she's finding out he's cheating on her. So no wonder he has a track record. So she finds an address in a number. She finds the ex's number and stuff and calls her, and they obviously talk and match things up, and by the time they get off the phone, she's fucking mind blown. She's like, what the fuck? um, so she tells the ex-wife about everything. She only has maybe one family member that she's talked to because she's lied so much that she doesn't really know who's who. So before getting off the phone, she asks the ex-wife about her daughter. And she said there's nothing wrong with my daughter. He's not in communication with her at all, even though he said, oh my God, they're so close. And Reesa did not have the heart to tell the woman, the ex-wife, what Legion had said about his daughter, because the wife did ask, like, what did he say and lie about my daughter? And she was like, she made up some shit, and was like, no, she couldn't tell her that. So within that time, she also finds an obituary for his grandmother that he said had passed in 2020, when in reality, the obituary shows that she passed in 2008. Fucking insane. During this time, he starts having issues with his knee. He couldn't really move around much. It started off, as an injury. He said that he got playing sports or whatever. Then it just progressed to the point where the pain was so bad. He was like taking her pain medication she had from when she needed her operation and shit. Then he became really bedridden, couldn't do shit for himself, was calling out of work, taking up and wasting space pretty much. But he was in pain. She could say, like, although he lied about everything else, literally everything else, like, she could really see that he was actually in pain. So she verified that everything was a lie with the college and him going to college out in California, because she actually called the school, and the school said, we have no record of this man ever being here. Um, and she confronts him with this stuff, and he says that his father paid for him to be like a private citizen, so like his name doesn't show up. And I'm like, that doesn't even fucking make sense. Like, that doesn't make sense at all. um but eventually everything boils down to the point where she reveals to him everything that she knows, and he still insists on lying to her face. So she's like, kicks him out, is like, you need to get out of my house before I kill you. She ends up calling her mom and aunt. She said basically, look, I will give you money to go home to Philly, just get the fuck out of my house. So he leaves, but she realizes when she leaves, she's looking around her house, which he was staying in. He was in the guest room at this point because the sleeping arrangements with his leg being so painful just was not working out. But she starts looking around the bedroom, and this guy who was drinking these power aids, I guess because it helped with his pain. He wasn't really eating, but he needed some type of electrolytes. But once he would finish the bottles of Powerade, he would be pissing in those bottles and just leave them around the room because he couldn't get his ass up. So she was so just fucking livid by the whole scene, by everything. She just was overcome with rage at the entire situation and just disgust. But finally he was gone. So she ends up, changing the locks, changing the alarm. He goes back home, and when he goes back home, Reesa gets contacted by one of his cousins who finds her number and calls asking, what the fuck is going on. Of course, he's saying that he caught her cheating, which never happened, and that she's trying to take all his money, which is why he's back home and needing assistance from everybody, which is not the case at all, and was the same story he told about his fucking ex-wife. Oh my gosh, just insane. Insane. Um but the family he did have, like, knew how he was and very much had burned bridges with him, so they knew not to believe him, which is why they ended up calling her to figure out what was going on because he was asking for money. And they're like, we're not gonna give you fucking money if you've come into some fuck shit again. Like, we're fucking over your bullshit. So he had burned bridges with literally everybody, and he really hadn't talked to his family that he went to Philly to see for like 7 to 8 years or longer because of the burned bridges. And then she finds out that he really only has two brothers, whereas before he was claiming he had like five siblings, like three brothers and two sisters, something crazy like that. Finds out in actuality he only has two brothers, and one of the brothers is a fucking twin with him. She didn't even know he was a mother effing twin. A twin in which he is not on good terms with. Like, what the fuck? And one of the twins he claimed to talk to every fucking day, on the phone with, every fucking day. She would hear him having conversations, okay, with a brother that he was claiming he had such a close relationship with, and they would be talking on the phone for like 45 minutes at a time, okay? Early in the fucking morning, she said. She could never hear the other person's voice, but she could hear him literally talking like, yeah, like, what are you gonna do today? Oh, you're gonna barbecue? Oh, that's nice. What are you gonna put on the grill? Oh, that sounds good. Oh, yeah, me and Reese are gonna go out later. Like, having a full on fucking conversation. Nobody is there because he's not on good terms with his fucking brother, and they haven't talked in motherfucking years. So he was literally talking to open air for 45 minutes a day for over a year and a half. I'm like, this man needs to be committed. Committed. He literally hadn't spoken to that brother since 2015, and it's 2020, 2021 when this story is taking place. He's making up conversations every day like he was talking to somebody for like a year and a half. And it was his twin. And this twin actually had a job as a VP. This twin actually had a house that was 5 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms. This twin actually had a BMW. And this life that Legion was trying to make and lie, literally lie his way into making, that was never going to happen because he just didn't have the funds and the wherewithal to do it, was exactly the life that his actual twin, with whom he had no contact with, was actually living. How sick is that? He was stealing his twin's life and wanted to make it his life with Reesa, but could not because he had no fucking money. And he was a liar and had burned every single fucking bridge. I'm like, that is so sick. That is so wild to me. He made everything up. VP, the houses, the cars, his siblings, the passings, his accounts, the accounts that she saw that had like $15,000, like the Chase accounts, that she said, like, cause you can show people the app and the account and whatnot. Turned out it was a screenshot. She ends up finding these like screenshots in his bag when he was like when she had kicked him out, he had left behind some stuff. The screenshots, they were like literally Google images that she did reverse imaging for and was able to pull them up online. It was not his actual accounts. While he was able to pay the bills, like all their house bills, because he was making enough money at the condiments place as like the loader with the forklift, he was making enough money to like pay for their household bills. But all the extra, trying to buy a 700K house, trying to buy BMWs and Audis and do all that, he didn't have the funds for all that shit and thought he was gonna lie his way through it. And it's just like, what the F? What the F? He had no sisters. No sisters at all. So when he offered to have his sister pick up Reesa from the doctors where he had his business meeting from her surgery, he was just going to send some random lady up there that was not his sister. Oh my goodness. No half siblings, and the woman he called his aunt was actually just a family friend that nobody really trusted. So with all this going on, she was able to get a quick divorce. He was hesitant to sign, but ultimately did. Tried to move back in because he was claiming like marital rights, so you can't just kick me out of the marital home, this, that, and another. But she was like, look, if you come back here, I'm turning off all the utilities. And it's in the summer. It's going to be fucking hot. You're not going to have water. You're not going to have AC. You ain't going to have shit if you come back in here. So you might not want to come here. But what does he do? He ends up fucking coming back. And she was really concerned with him, so she ended up getting law enforcement involved because he's literally crazy. So she got law enforcement involved, and he ends up coming back because he thinks he can live in the house, and it turns out he had a warrant out because he was doing another thing that ended up coming out was that he used to do weekend jail, which I didn't even know was a thing, but she saw like forms for weekend jail and some of the stuff that he had left behind when she kicked him out. And so he had a warrant out, so when he came back she was able to just call the police, and they came and arrested him and picked him up. So that's kind of where it ended, but it was complete insanity. It was an enthralling ride. I was completely engrossed, and so many other people were. It is 50 parts on TikTok on her account. I highly, highly suggest you going and watching it for yourself. It is very entertaining and really has captured so many people's interest. Like, it's so surprising, and she's just growing in followers. Like I said, she's close to 1 million, and I really, really hope that she's has her monetization on. People are like, oh girl, you need to call Tyler Perry. You need to make this a Lifetime movie. You need to like get on one of those shows that like, I think there's even a show for real on like ID, like Who the Fuck Did I Marry? I really think that's a show. But yeah, it was just madness. But it just goes to show like there's really these people walking around this world, and you come in contact with them and you just don't know. You really just don't know. But I will leave you guys here, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Think about liking, think about subscribing. If not, I completely understand, but I will see you in another video. Bye bye.